So, well, last week I think it was, I had started doing this coaching stream. I've only done one episode so far, and the goal of it is to examine low-level play and try and give helpful criticism that's just very basic, very down to earth, very easy to understand um, criticism of basic mistakes that people make in low-level games to try and to just try and help you understand the game better. Like I can't promise to make anybody gold, platinum, diamond player, but the goal is to just improve yourself and to improve, yourself playing this game. And I think the whole biggest place to start, and really the only place to start, would be to talk about mentality, and specifically mentality in video games. One sec. Yeah, sorry about that. And God damn this guy. So, uh, the biggest thing about mentality that people just do not realize is that if you're only trying to win most of the time, you're just going to that's a bad mentality to have, in my opinion. And and people talk about it all the time, and especially in professional sports, that if you don't love the game, you're probably never going to make it to be a professional. And that's not always true. There's some people who hate the game and they're just naturally gifted, or they've been put, forced into it enough that they get to that point. But for the most point, to like get yourself to practice, you have to enjoy the game. And if you can't enjoy the game, there are other things you can do. And one of those, in my opinion, is to have a good mentality. And in my opinion, the best mentality to have when you're playing a game, any type of game, whether it be Hearthstone, League of Legends, Dota 2, Bloodline Champions, games I've all played for many, many years, and what I've always done to, climb up. And I'll never claim to have been really professional in any of these games, but I've always been above average in every game after, time and after working on this, is that you should always have the mentality to improve yourself. And that sounds really, really easy, but it's really not. Even somebody who preaches this mentality has a hard time with it, like a really hard time. Ask any of the friends I play with that have been playing with me for months and months. Last season, I was like high platinum, low diamond MMR, stuck in gold 1 because I kept degrading down after not playing because I just wasn't into the game anymore. And now that I've started to care about the game more and wanted to improve more, I've had a lot harder time because last time I would just focus on improving myself when I would play the game. I was trying to have fun, trying to just focus on learning the game, just because I only played it with my friends, really. Now that I've started playing a lot more solo queue and started researching a lot more, I am very much more critical of my teammates for making mistakes, and that is the worst thing you can do in solo queue. That's the worst thing you can do in games in general like this, because I honestly believe the best mentality to have, especially at lower tiers, like if you're bronze, silver, or gold, for sure, probably possibly platinum if you're like really, really damn good, but bronze, silver, gold, you can get out by yourself, guaranteed. Like, you can get out of gold, you can get out of silver, you can get out of bronze by improving your own play. And I can say that with absolute certainty, and there is really no way that you can't. But it comes down to being able to recognize your own mistakes, firstly. Secondly, not letting those mistakes affect you in a negative way, and thirdly, knowing how to learn from those mistakes. And I think one of the best proofs I can give is, even in the League of Legends scene, it may not be hard creep proof, but this is how I take this interview, is if you look at C9, they had a horrible beginning of the first split. Horrible. And they talk constantly about, once they picked it back up, they kept talking about how, yeah, we started to do better, and one of the main reasons why is because our practices are better. And obviously I do not have an insight, and if this is wrong, then I still don't think it dissuades my argument. But to me, what it sounds like is that they're practicing with purpose. And I think that's what everybody should do, because it sounds really easy, but it's not. It's easy, but it is easier for lower tier players. It's a lot harder for, once you get to like Diamond, it's harder to practice with purpose. It's harder to do anything once you get better at something to practice with purpose, because you've already mastered the basics. And to get the little nuances that distinguish, like Diamond 1 75 LP or, lower to a challenger is just very little things, to be honest. Like, it really is. So when you're bronze, silver, and gold, the main things that you should be focusing on are just looking out for your own mistakes. And I'm not saying like things like, and it doesn't even have to be big things, like, I should have, had 100, I should be up like 50 CS by now. I've missed so much CS, which is a big reason and definitely something you should try and improve on. But I think the first step you got to make is, noticing the little things like, oh man, I should definitely like try and look at the mini map at least once every 10 seconds. Maybe that's not ideal, maybe that's not optimal, but it's those little things that really try and get you into the state of mind of improving. Not blaming your teammates. Like, I personally go into every single match believing that I can play perfectly. I've never done this, but it's something that I try and get into the mindset of, just so that I can believe that if I make a mistake or if something happens, if I die, there's always something I could have done better. So I try not to blame my teammates for mistakes. Obviously, my teammates make mistakes, and that can put me in bad positions that I wouldn't have been otherwise. But, blaming your teammates doesn't help you. It really doesn't. So if maybe you get into this mindset of only blaming yourself, it kind of puts you into this like, man, Thresh, hooked this guy and he, or let's say Blitz pulled this guy into, pulled this guy into me and put him into a range for the last auto attack. If he didn't pull him, I wouldn't have died. Well, then you can have the mentality where it's like, oh, well, but Blitz's hook is actually pretty slow. I should have expected, I should have been able to see that it was going to hit before that and flash backwards far enough to get away, or to condemn him away, or, you just always try and look for ways you could have played better, because honestly, there probably is always something you could have done to prevent that, to prevent, from losing that team fight. And, or maybe not the team fight, because that does require some team 99% of the time, but I'm just trying to say there's always ways to improve yourself in every mistake you make. And then, like I said, the second thing is to not let those mistakes get you down, because I'll be the first to say I am hard on people, especially when I do teams. Like, I've been doing low tier competitive teams, especially in Dota. I did lots of tournaments, and I was very, very hard on my teammates. I was the captain. I was normally the one making all the calls, and when we'd go through and review replays, I would, be like, hey, you need to be getting over more. You need to be rotating faster. You need to be doing this. And I think sometimes people resent that, and I understand that. Nobody likes to be told what to do or what mistakes they made. But people need to realize, like, at least for me personally, I am harder on myself than I am on anybody. Because I have this mentality that there's always something I can do better. But one thing I try not let happen is I try not to let that mentality affect my gameplay. Because even if you sit there and have this mentality where, like, everything you could do would be better, but you don't let it get into your head where, like, oh man, I'm constantly fucking up, I'm on tilt, like, nothing's going right this game, I've died twice. You have to be able to look at mistakes you've made, recognize their mistakes, and then catalog them and just go on with the game. Because most of the times you're not going to be able to fix, like, if you notice, like, in a game that you're having really bad positioning things, like, during the game, Like say you're playing Riven top, and you're like, man, I'm just going in at really awkward times, and I'm just dying instantly. I need to be skirting the fights more. Obviously, try and do that, but there's a good chance that you're going to continue to do that the whole game because that's obviously something you need to work on. And I honestly encourage you to try and recognize that in the game and try and not do that as much. But you don't want to let that like one mistake impact your whole game. Like say for example you're just having trouble, like to continue with that, you're having trouble team fighting as Riven. Like you're not going in at the right times, you're not able to get to the back line. Well, damn, even if you do that the whole game, try and accept that and move on to something else. Okay, I'm going to buy 3 wards, ward up their jungle, and pick off somebody because I'm really strong right now, and I'm playing Riven, and I can just take people out really quickly. So, you have to have this mentality of trying to play perfect and recognizing your mistakes, not blaming your teammates, but don't get down on yourself about making mistakes. You gotta try to play as smart as you can without feeling like you're worthless. And I know that sounds like a really weird and maybe is not making much sense, but that's honestly how I try and think about it. Like I try and remember that every time I play this game, I can make an impact. And one mistake is not going to prevent you from making that impact, but it's good to recognize that you made that mistake. And one thing I really want to point out real quick is, and I think this kind of falls under mentality, and it's something that every player needs to, probably every player can improve on to an extent, especially low tier players, and even me included. Like I can do this so much, and if you want to hear more about this topic, I'm going to just touch on it briefly. It's I actually got the term from Last Shadow. If anybody said it before, I apologize. I'm just going to throw out credit to him because that's where I heard it from. And Last Shadow, if you don't know, he was the former or current coach. I don't know if he still is, but he was a coach for SHC, Super Hot Crew. And he makes coaching videos. If you haven't heard about him, just Google search Last Shadow. You should probably find him. And he's really good. And one thing he talks about is resisting death. Sounds like a very easy topic, but it's really not. And I said that for everything, and I apologize if I'm getting a little redundant, but a lot of people have a bad mentality when they play this game, and it's the mentality that trading 1 for 1 is good, or trying to make flashy plays is the way to win games, and it's really not. Like especially at low tier play. At low tier play, playing safe and playing passively will win you more games than trying to go in for that 1v3 when everybody's trying to kill the Tarek, Vi, Thresh, random comp. Just saying, it's gonna to try and kill somebody 1v3. When you're just gonna get CC'd, when you have a high chance of getting CC'd and died, or even if you don't have a high chance of getting CC'd, just getting blown up because 3 champions still do a lot of damage. And I encourage you to try and make plays. Like that's not, but it's to make smart plays. You always got to. Sometimes you got to man up, and sometimes you got to try and make a play. If you're gonna lose anyways, like if your team's very much down, you're just like, if I can do this, this will, allow us to get Dragon, and otherwise they're gonna get it, and I just got to go. That's reasonable. Sometimes you got to do that, but most of the time in lane, say you're mid and you don't have vision of your side bushes, and the enemy mid is pretty low, but they have a stun of some kind, or they still have flash, so killing them is going to be rather difficult. Why would you when you don't have vision, when you don't have and they still have some defensive summoners up, why risk playing aggro? Why risk going all in when you don't have all the information? This is what I'm saying about resisting death, because say you even kill that mid laner, but the jungler showed up and got you too. That is not worth for your team. Like, especially at higher tiers, because at higher tiers, they're going to try and find some way to punish you for that, because, you know,